This next role play principle is listening versus hearing. Now, this seems so simple, but let's stop and think about this. You're sitting in a coffee shop. You can hear a lot of things at once. You hear the person across from you talking to you. You could also hear the couple a few tables away talking and having a conversation. You could also hear the road construction going just outside the coffee shop, and you could also be hearing the gentleman ordering their order with the person at the counter. And on top of that, you're hearing coffee gurgling in the background as it's being brewed. You're hearing a lot of things. Now, listening is all about where you're focusing your attention. Listening is about what we choose to pay attention to. We could actively be listening to the person across from us having a conversation, or while they're still talking to us, we could wander and give our active listening attention to the couple having a conversation over here. We could give our active listening attention to the sound of the jackhammer going and going and going. We could even give our attention, our active listening attention to the coffee being made. Active listening is a choice we make. And it is an art form we desperately need to practice. In this day and age, people could be so much better at it. There's some great sayings, some great statements out there. You know, we were given 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. You know, we went to school for speech, but we never went to school for listening. It is something we need to get better at. So many times in a conversation, we are not really listening to what the person is saying. We are just waiting our turn to say what's on our mind. We hear the words, but we are not listening to what they're trying to get across. We're just waiting our turn, and that is not quality service that we can provide to that relationship. We need to practice this skill set. Role play is a perfect place to do that. How can you get better at your active listening? Well, here's something you could do with the Connecting with People cards. You could make it a point to do a role play with a partner. You play the agent, and they're the lead. And you're going to challenge yourself to not have these pre-designed roadmaps you're going to go down. You're going to practice really being present with the person in front of you. And every question you ask, focus in hard on the response that you get. This is so important because we talk about tell me more in 3D, but that's only half the equation. Those tools help us get the information, but if we're not opening our minds to receive it, we're just halfway there. So how can we actively use the statement active listening as a buzzword to help us remember to clear our minds, to open our minds, to really listen to the responses people have to the questions we ask? You want to see how well you did. Once you're done with this role play where you're ideally crushing the Tell Me More in 3D, where you're learning a lot of information in theory, sit down immediately afterwards with a pen and paper and start writing down everything that you discovered, everything that you pulled from that interaction. See how much you can retain thanks to your active listening. Now read that back to your partner who played that lead, and let's see if there's anything major they feel like you missed, that you did not clearly listen to. This can be a great way for you to gauge how your active listening is going in a role play practice. Practice, practice, practice. See how you can be at clearing that mind and really being present in the moment. This can be hard. But as we continue to practice, we realize that as we actively listen to what's being told to us, we can use Tell Me More to ask more questions, gain more information, and we can organically use that information we are actively listening for to transition to the things we want to cover. Instead of just waiting for that chance, when's the right time to ask about their house criteria? Let's just use the Tell Me More in 3D and let's actively listen for them to say something. You know, we've got 3 kids and we're running out of room, we could use more space. If we're letting ourselves actively listen and hear that, that is a perfect segue to naturally go into the house criteria. You actively listen and you hear that, Now you say, oh man, sounds like more space is incredibly important to you. So what does more space mean to you? Does that mean a bigger backyard? How big of a house are you thinking? That's a great organic, natural way to transition. And if you miss that, this is going to be something like, okay, great, got it. So tell me about your house criteria. Well, that's not a fiery disaster, but it could be so much better if we actively pay attention and actively listen. And we can seamlessly segue into these organic places of learning everything we need to know. Way better, way more interested, way more focused, and people can sense the attention that you're giving them, and that will translate to people wanting to trust you, believe that you're the right person for them. So here's your homework. Do that role play. Sit down, use the cards if you have them, do a full role play, and then circle back and see how much information you can retain. Get feedback. Is there anything you missed? Anything you didn't actively listen for? Start practicing. It will take time, but it does get better if you let yourself do some practice.